Hello, people of 2025. I hope you've all been well. This video is going to be a bit of a different one for me.
Did you blaze?
Wait,
Yes.
sir?
Yes.
Wait, are you answering me or are you reading stuff?
Yeah.
Wilbur Soot is back. Now, before you start typing some goofy shit in the comments, listen to me. I'm not here to bash the man. I'm not here to crucify him or save him. I'm here to talk about how this whole situation feels and how it's being handled. Because a year ago, the internet watched this dude disappear after getting accused of physical and emotional abuse by his ex-girlfriend. Shovel. Not just vague abuse. He said he bit her without consent multiple times, called it a pattern. And even though she said she didn't want to ruin his life, let's be real. When you drop a statement like that online, the floodgates open. He went ghost after that. For months, Wilbur was silent. No tweets, no videos, no statements. Nothing. Just vent. Everybody was left to fill in the blanks with speculation, fan theories, Reddit posts, he said, she said, and trauma confessions in the quote. Now fast forward to 4 days ago, and boom, here comes Wilbur Soot.
I responded to the situation in February of last year, and I still stand by everything I said in that statement. I understand it was misinterpreted by some people, probably due to my wording, and I know some people are still looking for clarity, especially nowadays where personal transparency is more common amongst content creators than it's ever been before. However, this clarity, the clarity I've offered to my close friends and my family, would mean publicly sharing deeply personal parts of my private life and my relationships with the internet. I've never been comfortable doing that, and I don't believe that should be the cost of being understood. All I can say is that the labels that have been attributed to me by social media are not true, and I don't accept them.
Now I will say that his response is genuinely the perfect PR response, and it definitely taught me a lot about how you should handle responding to drama as a content. And I say that mainly because I am someone that considers myself to be a truthful person, in the sense that I would deliberately go out of my way to tell even the most uncomfortable truths for the sake of being honest. And while that is definitely an aspect of my character that can be appreciated while building an audience online, the fact of the matter is a lot of people out here are bitter and evil and will use that honesty against you as a weapon. So with that being said, I can definitely agree with the point of view of him not wanting to put out any of his personal information on his own end about himself or the relationships in his life, to not make his life any less private than it already has been after being thrust into the spotlight. So I definitely can't fault the man for not wanting to come out and clear his name by airing out all his dirty laundry. However, I would also say that his dirty laundry is also kind of already out there, and in situations like this where millions of dollars are involved, I also feel like it's kind of the best course of action. When you consider how much financially is at stake, you should just clear your name. Even if it does risk the loss of privacy of some of your personal relationships, I feel like the assets that you acquire after reaching millions of followers creating content should vastly outweigh that, unless your personal relationships are just that significant to you, and that is a beautiful thing. However, that is assuming that this is actually being done because of the fact that he wants to preserve these relationships and not just because he doesn't want to come out and admit that he did it. Let me make one thing clear. I don't know if he did it or not. I'm not in a relationship. I wasn't behind those closed doors. I'm not the judge, jury, or executioner. But as someone who has dealt with similar predicaments, I can definitely understand that being falsely accused of something you haven't done can be a life-altering experience. I have forever lost and permanently altered a relationship I had with someone who matters more to me than anyone ever will, partly over my inability to honestly recount my experience in a toxic relationship. So I definitely understand how things like this can lead you to a place where you feel like the best course of action is being silent, because I have essentially done the opposite, and despite my own life and my connection with God, that's almost cost me everything. Now Wilbur does announce his return through his band and the creation of content on his very first YouTube channel that strays away from the Minecraft content he's gained most of his popularity. This appears to be a way to shift the age ranges of his audience to attempt for a rebrand, which I definitely believe is something that he will be able to pull off. The comment section on this video is not pretty and is definitely chaotic, as there is a mixture of people rallying in support of his ex because of her allegation, as well as people simply commenting on the fact that they never thought that they'd see him upload a video ever. And all of this is very tragic to witness, as it reminds me that all it takes is one individual to change the entire trajectory of your internet legacy and career. And this is why I didn't speak on it when it first happened, because the situation reminded me too much of that pain, too much of false narrative, too much of what it feels like when your name is dragged through the mud and people you love turn into strangers. Because the reality of the situation is, when you reach a certain level or you give others the fear of your potential to, people who you give imposter syndrome are going to try anything and everything to prevent you from fulfilling your purpose, solely because you're experiencing something they feel they are incapable of experiencing themselves. Because whether Wilbur is guilty or innocent, what I know for certain is that there's a young man watching this who's terrified of being accused. There's a young woman watching this right now who's terrified of not being believed. And there's a child growing up in a world where clout speaks louder than character. That's the real tragedy. So I don't know if I would agree with the way that Wilbur Soot handled the situation, but I definitely respect how he handled it from his point of view, as a man who is doing his best to maintain his legacy, his relationships, and his career.
Come in clutch like a genie. Don't talk unless you need me. You talk too much, you need it. All of my bitches look like models, she in love with me. When we link, it's flashing lights and